Oh, I didn't see you there. Well, this is Out of the Trenches, and I am Indy Nidell, and Out of the Trenches is where I sit here in my chair of wisdom and answer all your questions about the First World War. And if you have more questions about the First World War, please go to outofthetrenches.thegreatwar.tv and ask them there. Zachary, either Frey or Fry, because that name I've seen pronounced both ways, oh well, says, hi, this question has two parts. Both sides dug massive lines of trenches and moved an incredible amount of earth during the war. So when the war finally ended, who filled in all those trenches? Okay. Was it the property owner's responsibility? How long did it take to put the earth back where it belonged? Second, I assume some trenches were just abandoned as is for decades. Were there cases of French soldiers in World War II simply using old World War I trenches they came across to defend their country again in 1940? There was no general rule as to what happened to trenches after the war. Naturally, many trenches cut across farms, roads, and towns, and these would have been cleared and filled by the military and civilians returning to them. However, a lot of the trenches didn't need to be filled as they weren't in the way of anything. These trenches were simply left as they were and have slowly been reclaimed by nature. The zigzag patterns can still be seen today, only now they're covered in grass and plants. Some trenches were too dangerous to be cleared and were left as they were, while others were too massive and too well reinforced. Of course, some trenches were deliberately preserved and can be visited today in places like the Ypres Salient and Flanders. As for the second part of your question, the answer is much more straightforward. The trenches that still remained when the Second World War rolled around would not have been used, as trench warfare was a thing of the past. With advancements in technology such as the tank and the airplane, sitting in one place trying to repel enemy attacks was no longer viable, and World War II saw a movement away from the trenches in general. Lovro Weber asks, says, love the work you guys are doing. I was reading a book called 888 Days on the Isonzo Front, and I read in it that the 12th Battle of the Isonzo, there was an Italian general who became a prisoner of war. And now comes the question, okay? How many generals were prisoners of war? And do you know if there was any even higher ranking POW than just normal generals, maybe even major generals? An exact statistic on the number of generals who were POWs is hard to come by, but it was not that rare an occurrence, though naturally most men captured were of course of lower rank. A number of major generals became POWs, including Major General Sir Charles Townshend, who was captured by the Ottomans following the Siege of Kut, which we talked about in great depth last year. Other examples include Major General Delaman, Major General C.J. Mellis, Major General William. These men were generally treated much better as POWs than lower-ranking counterparts. In Germany alone, there were 73 officers' camps by late 1918. These camps were reserved for officers only, as the name suggests, and the conditions in these camps were significantly less harsh than in regular POW camps. The officers' camps had proper beds, and they were usually located in requisition buildings like castles, right? Not just in compounds made up of tents and huts. And following an agreement between the British and German governments in 1916, officers were even allowed to go on short walks outside of the camps as long as they signed a document giving their word of honor to not try to escape. Daniel Abraham says, hey, Great War team, the shell shock caused by the immense stress of battle in World War I is well documented. However, I'm having a hard time finding instances of conversion disorders or neurological symptoms which cause blindness or loss of hearing, although this gets mentioned sometimes. Are there any cases of this that you are aware of? Thanks and keep up the great work. Okay. Well, there is one very famous case of this occurring in 1918 to a young German soldier named Adolf Hitler. Despite the fact he claimed, as part of his propaganda, that the blindness he got was caused by mustard gas, it was actually purely psychological in nature. He was one of many soldiers in the war to suffer from a hysterical disability. And it was, in fact, quite common for soldiers of every nation. In Germany, soldiers suffering from hysterical blindness, deafness, or other disabilities, including paralysis, were intentionally transferred to hospitals far from the front. This was because they were viewed as having faulty or inferior brains, and so they were kept away from soldiers with real wounds so as not to infect them with their unpatriotic behavior. Now, after his rise to power, Hitler did his best to cover up his medical history from the First World War, even going so far as allegedly arranging the assassination of the neurologist that treated him and destroying the medical file from Pasewalk, the hospital where he was treated. The veracity of the claims of psychological causes had been long doubted, though, until recently, when historian Dr. Thomas Weber uncovered a series of unpublished letters between two American psychologists from 1943, which showed that Hitler's blindness was indeed due to mental illness and not mustard gas. In any case, hysterical blindness certainly did occur during World War I, as well as other psychologically caused ailments. But at the time, it was often viewed as though the soldiers were simply trying to get off the front line, and these soldiers were consequently viewed with disdain. They were treated by cruel methods with prolonged cold showers, shock therapy, and lengthy periods of isolation. If you'd like to see our special episode about shell shock, you can click right here for that. And once again, go to that website, outofthetrenches.thegreatwar.tv, and ask all your questions for me to answer here in the Chair of Wisdom. See you next time.